What's up, everybody? It's me, Chris. I'm here to give my predictions on this Saturday's Strikeforce card, and I'm also going to try to fit in my predictions for Sunday's WEC 41, just briefly. So, on to the Strikeforce event on Showtime. I'm really looking forward to this card. Probably, there's a lot of interesting matchups, but there's a lot of my favorite fighters to be on there, to be honest, on this card. So, I might be looking forward to it more than most, but although I do think the card has a pretty good buzz so far. Anyways, first fight of the night, we got Kevin Randleman against Mike Whitehead. Both fighters are primarily wrestlers. I think Mike Whitehead has better submissions. Standing up, hard to say. I think Kevin Randleman's a stronger fighter, and I think he's probably a little bit quicker still, even though he is 38 years old. Been very inconsistent throughout his career, unfortunately. I think standing, I don't know who's going to get the best, but if Kevin Randleman's able to put Mike Whitehead on his back, which I think will be his game plan, I think he can control him there. I think he could probably avoid submissions. So I'm going to go with Kevin Randleman to win this by decision, but it could go either way. Probably not going to be the most exciting fight based on style of the fighters, but, whatever. Next up, Joe Riggs versus Phil Baroni. I've been wanting to see this fight for a long time. I wanted these guys to fight when they were in middleweight in the UFC. Both in the UFC. Didn't happen then, but it's going to happen now. At welterweight, they're both moving down, or they're both fighting at lower weights. Baroni fought, his last fight was against Olaf Alfonso at welterweight, and he didn't look that good. He won, but he didn't look nearly as good as I thought he would. Should be a really good fight. If they both stand and trade, then look for, fight of the night, in my opinion, or close to it. Because they both got, they both are primarily guys that like to stand and trade, willing to take a shot to give one, so to speak. But if Riggs plays the smart game, and I think he's got a little bit better wrestling, and puts Baroni on his back, I think he'll be able to dominate there. Riggs has some of the best ground and pound in mixed martial arts, in my opinion. Really devastating from the top, and Baroni's not that good off his back, so... with that being said, I think Riggs has more fights to win. Standing, I think it's pretty much even, but like I said, I think Riggs is a better wrestler and can really get the better if he's able to put Baroni on his back. So I'm going to go with Joe Riggs win this fight by TKO, maybe second round. Next up, we got Andrei Arlovski against Brett Rogers. Arlovski's a late replacement for Alistair Overeem. Really good replacement, though. You can't get much better than that for a replacement. He's coming off the loss to Fedor, where he was knocked out in the first round. He was winning that fight. He was getting the better of Fedor. It looked like he was going to give Fedor his first legitimate loss, but got careless, jumped in, got caught, and Fedor put his lights out. Brett Rogers coming off the win over Obonga Humphreys. As far as terms of level of competition, that's like going from the kiddie pool to the ocean, Pacific Ocean. Credit to both guys for taking this fight, but I'm going to go with Arlovski here. He's just too experienced, too well-rounded. Rogers is a bit still raw. He may be a good fighter down the line, but I just don't think he's ready for a fighter of Arlovski's caliber at this point. No disrespect. Arlovski's been training. Both guys like to stand and trade. Arlovski's been training to box with Freddie Roach at the Wildcard Gym. So I'm going to go with Arlovski to win this fight by TKO in the first round. Next up, we got Scott Smith against Nick Diaz at a catch weight of 180 pounds. Nick's coming off the really impressive TKO over Frank Shamrock. He dominated him in a fight. I actually picked Shamrock to win. Scott Smith coming off also a very exciting performance, third round TKO, come from behind over Benji Radek. A fight he said himself he almost didn't come out for the third round, but he did, and he was able to turn the tide late and secure the win. This will be an interesting fight. It'll be interesting how the weight affects Smith. I think this is his first time fighting as low as 180. Only Nick's second fight at 180. Standing, it's hard to say who has the better standing, but Scott Smith definitely has more power. If they stand and trade for the most part, can't really say who it favors. Maybe it'll be interesting to see if Nick Diaz, this chink, can hold up to Scott Smith's power. On the ground, though, Nick Diaz has a huge advantage. Scott Smith's never been good off his back, and Nick Diaz, as we all know, is a jiu-jitsu. He's really good at jiu-jitsu. So if he's able to get Scott down, I think he's going to be able to dominate the fight there. I think he'll be able to submit Scott Smith with relative ease. However, that may not be too easy because he doesn't have the best takedown defense. But Scott Smith, on the other hand, doesn't have the best takedown defense. So, if Nick gets us down to the ground, I see him winning this fight pretty easily. Standing, I wouldn't say it's even, but it's even enough that I'm going to go with Nick Diaz to win this fight because, like I said with Joe Riggs, he has more ways to win the fight in my opinion. So, look for Nick Diaz to win this fight, although Scott Smith can very well win it as well, and what should be the fight, if not the second best fight of the night. On to the main event. Got Jake Shields against Robbie Lawler, also at a catch weight of 182 pounds. Both guys will be making their first fight since Elite XC folded, where they both were reigning champions of their respective divisions, welterweight and middleweight. Shields last defended his title in a win over Paul Daly. Robbie Lawler last fought in a rematch against Scott Smith. He looked better in the rematch than he did in the first fight. Hold on. Lawler's got the size advantage, strength advantage. He's definitely got the standing advantage. He's a much better striker. Jake Shields got the huge advantage on the ground. This is basically a styles make fights type of fight. Whoever's able to implement their game plan is going to win. Jake Shields got better wrestling, and he's got much better jiu-jitsu. It's very similar to the Nick Diaz or Robbie Lawler fight, except for Nick's better standing than Jake is. If the fight stays standing for any length period of time, look for Robbie Lawler to catch Jake Shields and knock him out. If Jake Shields is able to employ his wrestling game and get Robbie to the ground, I think he should be able to submit him in a fairly short order. I don't know if Jake's going to be able to do it, though. Robbie Lawler isn't the best wrestler, but he has pretty good takedown defense, and I think his size and his strength advantage is going to help him there. Like I said, if Jake gets him down, he's going to submit him. But I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. So I'm going to go with Robbie Lawler to win this fight by TKO, late second, third round. But it could go either way. And what should be a good night of fights, in my opinion. Next up, we got the WEC 41 on Sunday. Just going to go over my quick thoughts on the undercards. I got Jens Pulver winning over John Grisby. Don't know anything much about Grisby except for he's got a good record. But Jens, this is a do or die fight for him, so he's got to win, and I expect him to. Got Donald the Cowboy Cerrone against undefeated James Krause. Don't know anything about Krause either. But Donald Cerrone's a really good, well-rounded fighter. He looked good in a loss to Jamie Varner in the title, in his title fight. And I think he's going to rebound nicely from that fight and, look impressive here. And, I see Donald Cerrone win this fight either by submission or TKO. Next up, we have Jose Aldo against Cub Swanson. Another good fight, but I'm going to go with Jose Aldo here. I just think he's a more well-rounded fighter. I think he's better standing, and I think he's better on the ground. So this fight, Aldo I think can win it either on standing, get a TKO, or with a submission. But I think he's going to want to look impressive here. He's aiming for a title shot next, so I'm going to go with Jose Aldo winning the fight by TKO. On to the main event, we got Mike Brown against Urijah Faber in the rematch. Mike Brown's coming off the first round submission win over arm triangle over Leonard Garcia. Hurt Garcia bad with the first punch of the fight. Jumped on him, just was unloading on Garcia. Garcia never had a chance to get in the fight. And he was summarily choked out by Mike Brown. Uriah's coming off an impressive victory himself. First round guillotine win over Jens Pulver in their rematch. He looked really good in that fight, but I don't even know if the rematch was necessary. And I think Mike Brown's last fight was more impressive because Garcia had previously beat Jens Pulver in the first round. So, I think Mike Brown's last performance was a little bit more impressive than Uriah's, although his was as well. Going back to their first fight, I picked Urijah to win, but unfortunately got careless and got knocked out. This fight, it's a really tough call for me, to be honest. I'm a fan of Urijah Faber somewhat because he represents my city. I think he's got more tools. I think he's got better submissions. I think he's better standing. But I think Mike Brown's size, strength, and wrestling advantage, much like with the Robbie Lawler fight, is going to be to his advantage in the fight. I think if Uriah's able to get the better of him on the feet, I think he's got the size, and the strength, as I said, to put Urijah on his back. And Urijah is good on his back, but I just think Mike Brown would be able to get the better of him there. The fight is in Sacramento, so maybe if he is trying to just win from the top, Mike Brown that is, the crowd might start booing. It might, give the judge, the referee might feel the need to stand him up, where I think Urijah has an advantage, but I don't know if he has a big enough advantage to really dominate the fight there. I think if Urijah goes for submissions, I think Brown should be able to fend them off. He trains at American Top Team, really good camp, so I don't see him getting submitted, unless he gets hurt and gets caught with something, but I'm not sure if Urijah can hurt him. Mike Brown's a much bigger man naturally. Urijah could actually fight at bantamweight if he wanted to, but he fights at featherweight. So although I think Urijah has more ways to win this fight, I'm going to go with Mike Brown to win this fight by decision, But it could definitely go either way, It should be a really exciting fight, though, especially with the atmosphere and whatnot, the fans pulling for Urijah Faber. The last time they fought, it was in Mike Brown's hometown, so maybe that'll make the key difference. We'll see, but I'm going to go with Mike Brown to win this by decision. Probably back on Sunday and or Monday to give my thoughts on these fights, but until then, guys, I'm out of here. Bye.